Thank you all so much for coming. This is a fantastic turnout, and welcome to our fourth meeting of the Master Facilities Planning Committee for New Philadelphia Schools. From the beginning, we have said that the main goal of this process is that it was going to be driven by the stakeholders. And that's why you're here tonight, to provide input and to help really craft what is our master facilities plan for the district. How many of you are here for the very first time tonight? Several of you. Welcome, we're glad to have you. To these little postcards, they are available over on the table, and there's a QR code on these postcards that will link to a website that is completely dedicated to this process. And on that website is not only all of the information about our current facilities and the needs and the challenges that we have there, but complete synopsis of all of our previous meetings. So if you haven't been to any of the meetings and you want to know the presentations, to the feedback that we received from the people who participated, to conclusions that were reached, it's all there, it's all available for you or for anyone else who wants to check it out. We are determined this is going to be a very transparent process, and it's going to be community driven, and this is one way that we are attempting to do that. Also, if you want a little your own private catch up as to what we've done so far, I invite you to have a conversation with any of our representatives from TDA. TDA, for those of you who don't know, is the pre-bond architect that we have hired to really walk us through this process and help us to do all the things that we need to do to get ready to put this plan into place if we get to that point. So I'm going to turn this over to them. They're going to lead this presentation and we will be around. You're going to find this is very interactive. It's going to be the most beneficial if everybody contributes. So I invite you to be back here tonight, and once again, just thank you for coming.
Hi everyone. Thank you again for being here tonight. We're really excited to present more of sort of the ongoing investigation for your reactions and hopefully bring you along on the journey. So we're going to cover quite a bit tonight. This is the agenda. So we're going to rehash a little bit of what we did on November 30th so you understand what happened at that meeting. We're going to go through results of the voting that occurred because there were 8 different plans that we looked at that night as far as options for the district moving forward. We're going to provide a couple of updates about new enrollment projections and then ultimately how those affected the master plans that we looked at last time. And then we're going to look at sites. And we just sort of initial findings there. No decisions are being made. We're really looking for feedback tonight on how those are starting to look. And then we're going to do some polling to gather information from you all at the end of the session. So this is a recap of the November 30th meeting. This is the one where we mentioned we had 8 different master plan options that really were looking at whether or not you renovated, you built new, and putting costs with those different models. And they also looked at sort of how grades were distributed between different buildings. In small groups then, every table had a copy of each of those 8 plans. They got to discuss pros and cons, and each table then presented at the end sort of their favorite and their least favorite of those plans as a group. And then at the very end, every person had 3 different stickers, and they could vote on those different plans and put those stickers where they felt was appropriate. If somebody really loved one, they could put all of them on one. If they felt differently about different ones, they could place them on different options. There were some things that started to rise to the top as sort of commonalities that different groups were mentioning. Some were preferences for either Master Plan 1 or 6, which we're going to show you a little bit more detail here in just a few slides, and how those adjusted with the enrollment. People also spoke quite a bit about moving 6th grade to the elementary school level, keeping all the pre-K together in one building instead of throughout the district, keeping Quaker Dome for sports only. And then there were also some differences, of course. We had a lot of different people in the room. So people varied as far as what they thought should happen with the middle school and the high school. and whether or not things should be built new or things should be renovated. So these were the results of the voting. And as you can see, there was one that really kind of did raise the top, and that was Master Plan 4. The two others, though, that sort of stood out, we're continuing to study, and that's where we're going to present those in a little bit more detail tonight, as far as sort of updates to those. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl.
Thank you. So we've been talking the last few months about OFCC updating those enrollment projections. We finally got them. So what we've been planning and basing these master plans that we've been reviewing are the that were enrollment projections prepared in 2019. Hopefully I don't hit the wrong thing. Oh, it works. Okay. So we were basing our master plans around 3,100 students. Now, we know since 2019 what's happened with our actual enrollments. Right now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're somewhere in the 2,800 range. Plus preschool. Yep, plus preschool. So we know there has been a significant drop, not significant, but a drop in our actual enrollment since this number was prepared. So we just got the new enrollment projections in, and they're targeting 5 years out, which is the year 2028, 2029, and they are saying we expect to have about 2,700 students by that time frame, that time period. So in reality, it's about 120 something student loss, PK through 12, district-wide, over the next 5 years. And the biggest drop when we looked at these numbers was in the secondary schools. So the middle school and the high school population, not as much in the elementary school population. But overall, when you compare the 2019 projections versus our current projections, it's about a 400 student loss. So what does that mean? Essentially, you know that we've been basing on those 2019 enrollments. Enrollments equal so much square foot per student, and there's a cost per square foot, right? So lower enrollment projections mean actually less square foot and lower cost, which is a good thing, right? And I think we can get a little bit at a better price or lower expense is great for the taxpayers. So let's now look at those. Claire mentioned those 3 short-listed maps based on your has taken those 3 master plans that you identified as the most preferred and then did a study looking at sites and seeing, well, out of these 3 preferred master plans, how do our existing sites support those plans? Can we implement these plans with the sites that we have or possibly explore new site usages?
Hello, everyone. My name is Josh, and I hear a lot of you excited to see what kind of sites and possibilities. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. So first, we're going to dive into your existing sites and locations. So using an existing site, you could save a lot of money because you wouldn't have to buy land, demo any buildings, and you could put a school or keep a school in the same location that you already have one. So we'll start with East Elementary. So it's a little over 24,000 square feet. The site is 1.2 acres. It's very small and undersized site. It's also in town. It's not really enough space for parking, green space, outdoor space for kids, and it has circulation out only onto one road. Next is Quaker Dome. The site is a little over 5 acres. The building, both floors combined, is a little over 45,000 square feet. So it's the farthest east site. It's very close to the district boundary line. Many athletics and practices depend on it, such as wrestling, volleyball, basketball, and volleyball, I have heard. It is not a large enough site, or we think, good enough location for new buildings. And it would also be difficult to put in addition because of site boundaries and location of the existing building, but it can be done. So next is West Elementary. This school is, again, 24,000 square feet. You would be able to fit a small elementary school based on some of the master plans we presented. It would be next to impossible to complete without swing space. So swing space would be, when you're building the new school, we would have to tear down the existing one and you'd have to put all those kids into a swing space, whether that be in trailers or tent setups. This site can be accessed by 2 different roads as well. Next, we have York Elementary. This building is under 20,000 square feet. The site is 3.3 acres. You would, again, probably be able to fit a small elementary school from Master Plan 1. This is the furthest away site, and the location is a lot more spread out and a lot more rural. Utilities would be a challenge, was a note that. So next we have the high school, Welty Middle, and Central. So it seems like a great location. It's the center of town. Based on what I've heard and seen, everyone seems to know about it and likes it. There's not nearly enough parking. There's no practice fields or outdoor space. The site's severely undersized based on the number of students. And the combined site, 13.5 acres, is too long to navigate, and the design would be very limited. So something I was asked to look at would be to, if the district were to buy or purchase all the parcels in between Central and the high school, and that would become one large site. It would be very difficult. The school would have to be very, very long and narrow. And we think a lot of the current challenges you still have with those 2 schools would arise with parking, outdoor space, no room for future development. And then lastly, we have South Elementary. I believe this is one of the largest elementaries at 36,000 square feet. And it's by far the largest existing site at 15. So traffic is a concern because it's right off the main road and its location in the center of dense neighborhoods. We have heard that traffic is. It's only 2 miles away from the high school and middle school. It is the only existing site large enough that we would recommend that you wouldn't have to have swing space when building a new school. We would have enough room for probably an athletic field or baseball fields, and you have access to 3 different roads. So we're going to jump back to Quaker dome, as Cheryl is mentioning, we have a couple solutions for it. So this is the existing floor plan that we have of the dome. You can see the 4 basketball courts on the bottom right. That big open room on the top of the middle is wrestling, and then the 4 existing pre-K classrooms are there over to the left. So the first solution we have for the dome is to do a 4 classroom addition. So like I said, the addition would be a little difficult to put in. The edge of the site hugs the right side of the building. So it'd be a little difficult to get back there, get machinery back there. It's pretty tight on both sides. You're really only limited to that one little piece. So if you did the addition, all pre-K classrooms would be consolidated in one building. And like Cheryl mentioned, the addition was reduced from 8,000 square feet to about 4,400, so it saved quite a bit of money in there. The next solution for the dome would be to reprogram it and have all the district offices and the Board of Education in there. This would be a very low cost due to the minimal renovation work and extremely minimal demolition. It would consolidate all the pre-K students in a new elementary, deciding wherever you guys would decide to put it. And you could also close this building down, consolidating the district's buildings throughout. So next, we are going to talk about South. So South would be, you're fine. I'll give you a second.
I like it.
Lighten the mood. So South is our most highly recommended site to use. The rest of the existing locations and sites you guys have would definitely be a challenge and would probably not be the most ideal to build a new school. So the existing school property at 15.5 acres, it's by far the largest site you guys have. It's at the center of an active and dense neighborhood. There would be enough space for some athletic fields, depending on whether you put in a high school or an elementary school. There's entry and exit to 3 different roads, which would help with traffic flow and circulation. Traffic studies can be done. I think we could definitely help the traffic issue that seems to be happening there. A new elementary school, if chosen to put a new elementary here, you could close 5 buildings all at once, consolidate them all into one building, all in the same place. And the new school would also be close to, it's on the same site as South is, and it's close to some of your other existing schools. So,
So Josh, can I ask a question?
yeah,
The blue block that you have up there represents what?
the blue block right there represents a new elementary school layout. That would be 161,000 square feet roughly. It was a test layout that I did to see where it would be on the site. You could pretty easily fit a school on the site without needing swing space. The black dashed lines you can see right in the middle is where South Elementary is right now. So you could build a whole school in the whole bottom half of the site and you wouldn't have to knock it down. You could keep all the kids there. So thank you, Cheryl.
No, that's all right. And 161,000 square foot, I think, was the biggest elementary school
Yes.
size out of the 3 shortlisted plans. So that means if that works, then the smaller ones in the other 2 plans will work as well.
And this elementary, PK through 5, 161,000 square feet, is from the top voted master plan that you guys have voted on. So here we have some different footprints from the 3 master plans just to do some size comparisons. This was just an exercise I did just so you guys could see size comparisons of the different schools from the different master plans. And I kept all those dashed lines of where South is so you know how big they would be compared to South. So starting on the left, a new high school of 190,000 square feet, that would be from the top voted master plan 4. In the middle, it shows Master Plan 1 calling for 2 new elementary schools, K through 3 and 4 and 5. And then on the very right, it's very similar, but it's 2 new elementary schools, PK through 3rd grade and 4th through 6th grade. So, we are going to move on to new site possibilities. So, before I start talking about the new sites that we've picked out, I want to emphasize we have had no conversations with any landowners regarding the availability, if they'd be willing to sell or for us to purchase this land. So all parcels and everything is up in the air. I want to emphasize that. This was just a first step in researching and looking what is available and where you could possibly fit new schools. I also want to highlight some of the criteria that I was looking for when choosing new sites. So first, I was looking at sites only over 15 acres in size. Buying land we think that is already undersized would kind of defeat the purpose of starting a new campus or location. It just wouldn't be ideal. I think most of you would agree. Second, none of the sites I have chosen have any buildings on them, so you wouldn't have to demolish any existing buildings. Third criteria was scouring the EPA's website for pollution, waste sites, wetlands, potential wetlands and floodplains. Building a new school in a floodplain and with wetlands is doable. It's been done before, but it would add time and cost probably. And then lastly, pretty much all of these sites I have chosen are owned by either businesses, investment groups, or the city rather than, say, a family's land or a single person. So here are the first two sites. So the first one, the top, 989 Perry Drive, it's about 55 acres. Currently, it is a community park owned by the city. It looks like there's only 2 soccer fields there, and those remaining parcels at the bottom are completely empty, pretty much just woods. So you'd have enough space to fit any school from any master plan. It's around the corner from south. I think it's about a 4 or 5 minute drive. But a river runs through the site as well as some floodplains and possible wetlands. On the bottom, 609 Donald Drive. This is 33-acre site. This is also a city-owned piece of land. It is all entirely woods. It has been owned by the city since 1900 to note. It's very close to south, but it's at the end of a very dense neighborhood. There's only one way in and out, and the site has a very odd shape, making a lot of the acreage very tough to utilize in the design of the schools. So next, I was asked to look at both of these sites. This was referred to as Hawthorne and Buffalo. I drove past it today. It's not a huge site, but I think it's a good location in relation to the middle and high school. It is directly next to railroad tracks and a retaining wall, which is right up against Broadway. It seemed an extremely busy 6-way street. It's right across from a bunch of ball fields, which seemed good. But there were 3 active hazardous waste sites across the street, according to the EPA. And a majority of the site is also in a floodplain. So the mall. So it would be at least $7 million to demolish the mall. We have heard chatter about people wanting us to address the mall. And I looked on the county auditor, and it was appraised at $20 million just to purchase the land. I wouldn't be shocked if that number would be a lot higher too. It said Sears was an active hazardous waste site, and there was another one by Lowe's, which was across the street. It's directly next to a very large river and floodplain. Traffic and circulation would be very difficult to facilitate. It seems kind of peninsulated and out on its own. But it seems like it's in a decent location and it's plenty of size, or plenty of acreage. So next, Maiden Lane site. This was 25 acres. I drove around this earlier today as well. This is a good size and shaped site. It was appraised at $141,000 and it was only purchased in 2018. And it's purchased by Creighton Chemical. I believe that's right across the street. There are multiple roads and opportunities for exits and entrances, and it does hug the district borderline. So the district borderline is basically right on Maiden Lane, right at the top of that site. So this is,
It's off of 12th Street, back like where the pond, the strip pond is down in there, towards the Dover Philly Corporation line. So if you go off of Tuscarawas Avenue by the doctor's chiropractor's office, turn on College.
thank you for clarifying.
Ricky Neff, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. So the next site is off of Ridge Road. This was almost 17 acres. This again is owned by the city and it was just wide open woods. There is a water treatment and looks like some electrical infrastructure in the adjacent site, which might be a challenge. This was appraised at only $53,000 and there could possibly be 2 different entrances, exits. Traffic and circulation, I think, could be a challenge as well with this site. But it is the closest site I could find with the acreage and criteria to the high school and middle school, I believe. So, I named these Teal Hill Drive 1 and 2. As I was driving in here, I would like to drive around it more, but I noted that there was a lot of elevation change around these sites. And driving past it on the highway, I mean, they looked like rolling hills. So I might have to take these sites off just immediately, just due to the elevation. That was something I was definitely unaware of. But as you can see, they're the biggest, largest sites I could find. They were just owned by an investment group. So yeah, let's go to the next ones. So up top, we have 7 Mile site. This is almost 40 acres. So it would be very large, plenty of room for a new school, practice fields, future development. It was $130,000 and sold in 2021, but it's at the very, very north corner of the district, and vast majority of students and families would have only a further drive. And facilitating traffic and circulation would be a challenge. You'd probably have to do some type of rezoning with roads and parcels around it as well. And then I believe the last site that I'll be presenting, 16th Street site. It's a little over 22 acres. So it was 105,000 total. I believe there's 6 or 7 small parcels in there. It was bought in 2022. It's pretty far away from a lot of the existing schools. It's a couple minutes down the road from Quaker, so Quaker Dome. So it's in between Quaker and in town. It has the opportunity for multiple exits and entrances, and a river does go through the site along with lots of elevation change. I would have liked to see what the site looked like. I just didn't have time before today. But yeah, that is, in our opinion, the best sites that we could find based on the criteria we were looking for. Again, nothing is obviously set in stone. This was just a first researching exercise and look at possibilities nearby your existing sites. So, Ryan?
Right, thanks, Josh. Skip ahead here. All right. So we know that was a lot of information, and we're going to have a chance to kind of digest some of that. And we do want to introduce the group activity or some of the activities we'll be doing tonight. But first, I just want to say we appreciate Josh coming out here to present this tonight. TDA is a teaching and learning firm. So Josh joins us as an emerging professional, an architectural intern, who working with Cheryl and the district did some of that research to find sites that could work for this and then assemble some of the site fit diagrams so we can all kind of analyze and look at that tonight. So we appreciate that presentation.
Presentation ever.
Yes, thank you, Zach.
As a
Be nice to
he has
him.
presented.
But you got to throw them into the fire sometime. So it was a lot of information. And so we are going to pass out some packets of information so you can all kind of reference those sites and kind of look at all of that information that was presented. But for those of us who've been here for the past couple of sessions, you know really the activities kind of start to build on each other. So explorations that we did in the first, second, and third activities start to impact what we're looking at now in the fourth one. So in the information, there's a recap of the 3 master plans that this group kind of shaved down and shaped up, so you can see the costs and what's included in those, and then all of that different site information. And so really a goal of the exploration here was to look at what available land was there and what sites could support schools. So before we talked really an abstraction of like what is involved in each plan and the costs of it. And now the activity tonight is we really would love to have your groups discuss what would be your preferred sites. And I know how we've done it before in the past is maybe choose 2 plans that you the strongest. So we'll ask you to take a look at the sites and really choose maybe 2 that you feel are the strongest, and then talk about which plans you feel would best sit on those themselves. So we will take about 30 minutes to go ahead and review the information in the packet here, look at the plans. You can talk amongst your table and decide either reconfirm the plan that you really like or maybe select a different one. 1 second, guys, 1 second, because we'll break off in a minute and we'll let you go to town. Table, select that plan that you think, and then maybe 2 sites and do pros and cons with that. We'll do it for about 30 minutes and then we'll come back and report out. We have a little bit of polling that we're going to do at the end as we talk about some of the specifics that we covered earlier in the meeting, things to do with second grade, Quaker Dome, things like that. So all of this really helps inform that process. Myself, Claire, Cheryl, and Josh, we're going to float around if you have questions during this discussion. And did you have a comment you wanted to make, Claire?
For the sites, they can choose between existing and new?
Correct. You can choose between existing and new, and you'll see that in your packets. You know, Josh went through kind of those site fit tests. So that's not a designed building, but we wanted to lay the square footage out so you could see what a school of that size would look like on the site. It's not totally finished, but just to get a sense of scale.
And it's not voting and no decisions tonight. It's us trying to get your initial reaction and opinion on this tremendous amount of information that we just presented to you tonight.
We know it's not all decided in a single session, and really it hasn't been so far. So really the ongoing conversations and leads us to which sites we think are the most important. So if there's anyone sitting who doesn't have a group, maybe this group can break off. Because there's only 3 of you. We need to break off. So maybe we've got another seat over here. Unless you're joining us.
Yeah, I can come over here.
Okay, we'll come over there. Okay. Yeah, you're good. And then, okay. We'll pull you back in about 30 minutes. solved all of the problems, you can go to the door and leave. So we're going to start by reporting out. Everyone, if I can have your attention, please. We are going to start reporting out now. So let's go ahead and we'll start from this. So you guys solved everything? Okay, let's do it. Let's start on the back here. Come on up.
Principal of Welty.
Right up here. Everyone can see.
Right.
Everyone.
Like through it today.
All right.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So the first thing that we started off with was some additional options that our group and Chris kind of knew where some of these things were of places to look at. So we started off with some of these. So if you go down past where Buckeye is, there's a farmland down out there that's owned by Demuth. It's 117 acres. So that was another site that I guess was discussed before of possible land that Chris said he knew a little bit about. So we put it on the list of a possible area that you could put a lot of things in one spot. Down by Crooked Run, I think Mr. McMath said that there was some land out there, about 80 acres just outside of where the city limits are now, that you could build most of the things in one spot. And then we put the airport on here, which we found out now is 10 years to shut down, I think. So we put that on there as it had come up a lot. So I guess that one's off the table. So. That was brought up by a councilman, so. So the options that we liked, obviously South being able to house whatever, either an elementary or the high school, middle school down there. I think both of those, our group thought those were great ideas. I never really thought about putting a high school down there, and maybe that cuts down on some of the traffic because you do have kids that leave the high school at different times throughout the day. There wouldn't be the concentrated, 1,200 parents coming to pick up their kids all at once from the school buses or not being bused. A lot of the middle school kids, close enough to ride with somebody else, older siblings, so maybe that's a solution to some traffic issues that are on the south side. But also, if it has to be an elementary down there, it's a great space too. You can still get ball or soccer. I know they put money into those and the softball fields or whatever else are down there. Keep all that stuff. I mean, I think that's, for our group, there was like a no-brainer. That has to be one of the places that you have to look at to build stuff in our group. I think that has to be one of the two options for us. The other ones that we liked were the Howden Buffalo. We don't know what the EPA issues and stuff are down there and how close those things are. I mean, I know our water table and stuff is right next door to that, so I'm hoping that where our stuff comes from down there. So, not a bad location. It's pretty centrally located towards downtown New Philadelphia. It's got enough acreage you could put an elementary or something. Perhaps not a high school in that location, but maybe, if you look at and there's enough sites based down there. So those are the ones that we had up there for our group.
Was there any conversation about your thoughts and preferences on the 3 shortlisted master plans after hearing all this site and discussing the site information? And okay if not, but I'm saying.
I mean, it was kind of like looking at the first one. I mean, that's kind of what we looked at for this, is the two building options.
Master plan
But
4.
we didn't discuss it per se as that's the only options. The only other thing was, like, for the middle school, high school in this, we thought whatever building did not get built at South, like perhaps the existing middle school, high school is a good location to build the opposite of that. So if the high school goes to South, the elementary building perhaps goes to where the middle school, high school is now, or vice versa. So
That is a really neat idea.
So can't take credit for the whole group. So.
We're the dumb table over here.
Yeah. So,
right.
Yep, that's it. That's what we got. Cool.
Thank you so much.
You want
We'll
that?
take this.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this table over here in the corner. Come on up.
I can't buy it. I will buy Central Elementary.
Oh my gosh, he's gonna say Central again, right?
Listen, I thought about it this morning. You know how it says Central School above the portico? Well, the word office is only 6 letters, so you don't have to readjust the alignment of the word central office. And school has the O and another letter in the word office. And so you only have to buy 4 more letters. Okay. We were really focused on the Perry Drive, which is down by the community park site. We thought the size was really awesome and it provided lots of flexibility. So in the event that we were able to build on that land, it'd be awesome because it'd be big enough to build 1 new building or maybe a whole campus or maybe, just gives lots of options, if that makes sense. It's also close to South, which is a current existing building in the district. It's very flat, so some of the other options were like, we're gonna take a ski lift up to the school building. So we're kind of like, yeah, how about flat would be good. Access to 250. We were saying about how a lot of especially if there's like a high school there, a lot of the high school kids and buses need to get to 250 to get to sporting events, and it's really close. So they don't have to travel as far to get to 250. They can just get right on there. The cons are, of course, the Southside Community Park is presently there. And so we were talking about how like the town has really raised money to build that up. And so unless we can find land, maybe not use the entire land, but use the part that's not really the park and leave part of the park there, I think that might work well. But we're kind of concerned that if we say we're taking over the whole area, and I don't think the park itself's been there that long, like I think they'd be like, well, wait, we built up this park and now you're like destroying it all. Like I don't think that would go well with voters or government officials or other people involved with that. But the flexibility is what's nice. Like we wouldn't have to put the whole campus there. We would have enough to put maybe a little bit and leave part of the park. Anything else you think is important to say? And yeah, we talked about some of the other options, but this is the one we like the best.
Did you have any discussion around South?
The
South
elementary school. Not a whole lot. My biggest thought is just the idea of how all the thousands of students are gonna get to South Side if, let's say the elementary, everything's on this one campus. Because right now we have Broadway and I can't imagine the mass exodus getting there every day. But traffic studies can be done and I'm still gonna buy Central Elementary. It's my goal in life.
The budding influencer here, for those who haven't joined us before.
Follow the story as it goes.
All right, I think that's all I got for you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll do this table in the front here. You can choose your speaker. Oh, here we go. And we'll try to keep it to 2 minutes just so we stay on track. We got a couple other things. So. We'll buzz you. We'll buzz you.
We spent a half hour and I'm not sure we accomplished anything. So
That's what you said last time.
exactly. So, but at the end of the day, we really just talked about mainly it was the South. I mean, the South location just kept coming up more and more and more just because the amount of acreage that was there. And we also had a crazy idea of potentially flipping the high school, middle school to the south side and what that would look like if those were kind of different and the traffic and all that. But that's just what kept coming up more and more and more was how is the traffic pattern going to work down on the south side if we basically double the number of students that are currently going there. We talked a little bit about, let's see here. We also talked a little bit about the one site that was, I'm trying to think now, what else did we talk about?
Well, this is the tech park.
Okay.
Down, yeah, not sure who owns that. Joe Petrullo had mentioned that.
Okay.
Yeah, back by Trumpet in the Land.
Oh, okay.
Back there,
Down by Buckeye?
Yeah.
Okay.
That got all that space got developed with roads, and there's a few businesses back there, but I don't know who owns that.
Right. So that's that's kind of all we didn't get much further than that. To be honest with you, we just didn't really, because a lot of those sites, I'll be honest with you, I'm not from here, so a lot of those properties you brought up, like, I didn't even know what you were talking about. So, and I can't really speak intelligently about that. I just kind of know our existing sites, and that's kind of where we came up with.
Right.
But
And
you-
then that plan for the high school, middle school at the current south site, it looked like it was impeding a little bit on the current south school. So it looked like that would have to be a swing space. Is there any, wiggle room there with that design, do you guys know?
Yes, there definitely would be. None of those were just exercises to lay the square footage out. You could definitely squeeze the school around south.
And that was the one that we kind of emphasized too, is that if, with all the construction going on, to have to where you can keep the kids currently where they are during construction I think would be a huge plus for us to have, so.
Yeah, you typically gotta stay about 40 feet from an existing school, but other than that, you're
How many stories was the high school in that scenario?
2.
Two.
So, I mean, there's always the ability to go up, to shrink the footprint, but, so.
Doable is the answer.
All right.
Great, thanks, guys. Good stuff. All right, we'll do the table in the back here. Come on.
So when we looked at the sites and the sizes, we thought that their 2 sites were going to be necessary unless we can find something really large, and none of the larger ones on the paper seemed like they were good fits. So we're thinking 2 sites are going to be necessary, so we are looking at that plan. I think it's 4
Yes.
with the 2 buildings. We did like south for elementary. We liked the drawing with the access roads that were put in there because it gives a lot of room. And south, or for an elementary, you only need parking for the adults, the teachers. You don't need the parking for the kids. So we thought that would help with the traffic flow issues there. We really liked the layout he had and also the fact that you could build it while the existing school is there. For high school and middle school, we said it needs its own site, but we were undecided exactly of where that was gonna be because we don't love any of them. They all had pros and cons, but they all had traffic issues. Extreme traffic issues, especially if you would do additional sites on the south side, keeping the south already. That's just too much traffic going to the south side. One school is a lot of traffic to the south side. You put 2 over there, that's awful. We did think the Howden Buffalo location has a lot of concerns, but location-wise, we thought it was good. It's pretty centrally located. There's decent traffic in and out. And they said easy to shut down in an emergency situation by blocking either side. And the 16th Street we thought was maybe a possibility. Out of all the ones we looked at, that was one we didn't see like major glaring issues like we did on a lot of the other ones. Do you guys have anything else to add? Okay.
Cool,
Great.
thank you. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's do this one.
All right, so we agreed we liked the master plan 4. That was the most popular one from the few times that everyone's met. We thought some additional sites, maybe some privately owned space on Balti Valley. There's some good area there. Hummel Valley on the south side also drew our attention. 416 near the transportation building. We don't know what's possible there, but maybe there's something that could happen there. But we really love the south side idea of South Elementary being one consolidated elementary school. I think there's a lot of benefits to that for especially families who have multiple kids, sharing resources amongst elementary staff. We really love that idea, like the table before us did. When we thought about, whoa, clearly the worst color marker that I chose. But with what we really liked was the idea of keeping PK through 5 at South. And Perry Street, I know it conflicts with the park, but that's 54 acres, which just blew our minds of flat land. 16th Street, Ridge Road, we're talking about hills, and just like Mark said, ski lift scenarios. So we liked Perry Street, that it was flat. You could have, like, for example, the resource officers that Philly employs, close proximity between PK, middle school, and high school. George mentioned, and it sounded really smart, I don't know what it means, but like a ring road to help with transportation. So that sounds cool. We love that it's close to South for shared resources. Park, green space. We love the idea of more green space when we talked about Oak Shadows, which we know didn't work. But there could be some green space for our students at Perry Avenue. It's owned by the city, so please, Mayor Jewell, we wrote there. And some cons, traffic, obviously, as you guys had said, South Side, but we just believe the benefits of having the buildings close and the flat land outweighs that we could certainly figure out traffic. Water, we know there's some wetlands water there that we could hopefully work through. And then our big kind of final idea is if the buildings were taken down throughout town, we'd love to see community beneficial space as part of the plan, not just old decrepit buildings, but parks or new housing, things of that nature would be important to us as a team as we think about the welfare of our city going forward. Did I miss anything? Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Great. All right, we'll take the back table over here. Yes. Voluntold.
That's okay, I'll do it. I talk all day on the phone.
Just a few tables left.
Again, we went with master plan 4. We liked having the 2 buildings. We thought that was best kind of going forward. So everything is kind of based on 2 buildings. First of all, we wanted to consider maybe the space where the bus garage was. We had talked about that in previous sessions, so wondered if that was an option again. We did like the campus feel, so if we could get enough space to put 2 buildings in one area, we thought about that space. Kind of thinking the same thing, we thought about close to Buckeye and Kent, and other people said that too. So just maybe looking into some private land that might have some areas to do a campus like we had talked about before. And then beyond maybe a campus or different locations, we do really like the south location. We liked it a little bit more for the elementary. Just thinking traffic for high school, we went a different direction, thinking parking for all of those students. We know with the parking at the high school now, I don't think the residents on the south side would like all of those students parking all over their little residential circles and all the little traffic back there. So we thought traffic and parking would be an issue if it was a high school on the south side. But we do like that location. That would be a very good spot for a building if we need to use that location. And then we did think too, a lot of the locations we did not like. We thought about all the hills, all the places that were kind of on the outskirts where there would be no students that could walk. If everything had to be a bus or had to be a parent drop-off, 7 Mile Drive, like no kids could really walk to that location. I know a lot of students do walk to school because right now our schools are mostly in residential areas. So that might be a bummer to a lot of parents that send their kids to school to walk, those type of things. So we do, if we don't really have a second location, we do like the existing high school and central location with minimizing how many properties we would have to take. And so that would be in consideration too. I think you said like 22 lots are between central and the high school, so trying to minimize that versus previously. So a couple different ideas, but that's kind of what we're getting.
So I know we're getting close to closing time, but I do want to bring this up because I find this very interesting. Nobody else has said this. And we talked about the reduction in the enrollment projections. Now that's just the state and what they'll co-fund. We can do whatever we want in terms of that. So
Yeah,
we will be talking about this in future meetings.
Why would we plan for a building that would fit the students that we have today?
So we'll have that conversation in the next few meetings, what the cost impact is, where we feel we're comfortable. We'll navigate through that topic, but great
So with
point.
a $150 million project, $17 million to be able to house the students that you currently have seems like nothing. You would want, if we had this building tomorrow and we reduced our students wouldn't fit in this building. Why would you try to make a campus or have all these buildings that don't fit the students we have today?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll go to the back table here, and then we'll finish up with the front, and then one last activity before we let you all get out of here. So we're seeing some commonalities between sites, but a lot of interesting ideas.
We had a lot of discussions and then just scribbled some stuff down at the end. But we did, we talked too about like that idea, like if we have a brand new building and we have people move into our community because they oh, this is a great school district, and then our population increases, and then, are we gonna go back to the community and ask them for more money? So because our buildings are overcrowded, I thought that might be an issue too. We did like the idea of moving the administration offices to the Quaker Dome. Thought that was a good thing so that this building could be eliminated too with all its oldness and problems. We said, we had talked before about where sixth grade is gonna be, I don't know, we kind of, wherever. But we like the idea of South Side also. And again, like the elementary, because there's so many drivers, you know, we might be able to have different roads into it, but we have one bridge. So everybody knows that. We did talk about how if we were able to find land that we could do maybe a campus, that property might have a high value if we could sell it, you know, and somebody wanted to put homes in there, it might bring a lot of funds into our, in order for us to use it to build what we want to somewhere else. So I don't know what the differences are in that. I mean, it's nice we have, you know, if we have property, it's a good place, we want to use it to build on, we don't have to buy something else. Yeah, but maybe way out, like, hey, you know, somebody might buy that for a lot of money because people want to live on the south side. I don't know, that's just something we were thinking about. We like down, you know, down by the fields on the south, but again, I don't know, I don't think that one road, that bridge can handle all that traffic in there, and there's really no other way to get in there. And we talked too, does the community want to give up that nice space? But there is a huge field beside there off of Hummel Valley that maybe, you know, we could ask them, are you wanting to get out of farming and pay a couple $1 million? And, you know, I mean, we're going to have to pay for something somewhere. And so how do we know that he doesn't want to, you know, sell us that land? So I think that it's a really big location. It would be right beside that. We wouldn't be trying to take over parks that the community already likes. So that was an idea. We also kind of liked that once we looked at it and figured out where it was, that site behind Menards. It's a large, flat area. There would be lots of entries there, although those are smaller, you know, town roads going in there. It's kind of centrally located if people like that idea of being in there. We weren't real excited about in-town locations because already we know what the traffic's like, you know, when people are picking the kids up around there. And we just want the kids to have some green space. You know, if anything that's going to go on the middle school, high school area, it's just going to be too small. They're not going to have playground area and kickball fields and parking areas for the teachers even. It's hard to even get teachers. So something that might be an interesting location to us. We had another idea. There's it's a piece of land that I drive by every day, and I think, wouldn't that be a great place for a school? I'm talking about out on 21, if you're going, you know, past that truck stop, and you go down on the right side, there is a landscaping company with landscaping stones, and then there's a lot of space there with a few, I think there are a few homes back in there, not very many, and it would be a lot of land all the way down to Crooked Run. And that space, it's in the city limits, so it would have city water, and, you know, we wouldn't have to do a well. It would have a lot of space, and it has hills behind it, so it's not like they're busy roads, you know, the kids we nearby. It's accessible there to the highway. 21, there's a lot of space there, so I think that if we could get it to work, the road could be widened, so anybody going traffic could go, you know, through traffic wouldn't have any trouble if you have people, or maybe you have, you know, one entrance here, and you have another lane that's gonna go to an entrance somewhere else. So I feel like, you know, you could manage traffic there pretty easily. Anything else, guys?
All good thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. All right, and our last table.
Okay.
All right, we brought the mayor up here. He's gonna give us some of these things. But we got a couple of things we are a master plan for as well. We talked about admin to the dome. That seems like something easy to do. We like the idea of one building at South Elementary because it's got space. So the same reason everyone else likes it, even though traffic will become tough, but that's all right. And then I'll let you talk about the rest. There's 16th Street instead of some of the other places.
Yeah, 16th Street, out of all the choices, we thought was the best. Matter of fact, I'll have to double check our master plan that Michael McInturf developed for us. That is one site that he selected for high school, middle school. But I think too, it's time that we go back to the University Branch trustees and see if they'd be interested in selling some land right across from the KSU Tusk campus. To me, and in our master plan, that's where it should be. So I've already talked to Superintendent Wentworth about it, and we'll make that appointment and go there with hat in hand again and see if we can make that happen. But yeah, Tech Park was another one that we talked about. That's a possibility. Of course, KSU Tusk. I will say, Donald Drive, it's the old city dump. So, you don't want to go in. Yeah. And Ridge Road, that's right by our water towers. And it's really, it's not as flat as it seems from the air. So.
And then when you get down to the Southside Community Park, there's plans, there's things in motion that are already happening down there.
Right. We just got $50,000 from the Kimball Foundation to develop phase 2 of the Southside Community Park, which is about 8 youth soccer fields, complete the roadway to the high school soccer field, which is part of the Perry Drive. So you'd be taking it to the high school soccer fields. And lighting the road, putting concession stands and restrooms in 2 locations there too.
Great insight.
Yeah, and we've applied to the federal government. Sheriff Brown's office is trying to get us $1 million. And we've asked for $500,000 from the state capital budget, the biennial budget. So it's about a $2.8 million project. So we're trying to build our capital stack.
When will we know about that, the biannual grants that they're issuing out?
It'll be in June.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, with the end of this fiscal year, state fiscal year.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we appreciate everyone's time, but before we let you go, there was one last exercise we would love to get some input on before we break again. And that is really, we wanted to poll this audience on a few specifics that were talked about earlier in the meeting. So you can pull your cell phones out. This is like a live polling activity. You can scan the QR code, and then we can provide some input in this meeting. There's just about 5 multiple choice questions that we wanted to get, again, input on as we go into the next couple of sessions. So go ahead and scan this. And so the first question, once you scan it with your cell phone, you'll see a little link pop up. You can click on that, and you should see this question on your phone. And as we talk about and you look at the master plans on your sheets, there's something called segmentation, right? And that's splitting the project up into 2 phases, and maybe those phases are 10 years apart, 30 years apart, 5 years apart, but just splitting it so that maybe the costs are lower, but the project goes out longer as opposed to doing it all in one. And so the question is, do you believe we should segment this project into 2 phases or try to complete all of it in a single phase? And that could be for any of the master plans that you discussed. And so we're going to give you just a couple of seconds.
Can I have a follow-up to that?
Sure.
Would you collect on the bond from the very outset?
Repeat the question?
Would you collect on the bond from the very outset if we choose to do it in 2 phases? Are we going to collect on the bond from day one, or would you do it as 2 separate fundraising?
So it would be 2 separate issues. So if it hits the bond, it's 2 campaigns, 2 issues, 2 separate projects. Does that answer the question?
I bet I know how this is going to be answered.
I feel as if we just hit a nerve. But no, it would be 2 separate, and essentially, the 2 projects could be 30 years apart. It could be completely different depending on needs. So, we've got about 45 people who have registered so far. So when we click ahead, we'll kind of see which way the room is leaning. Again, we're not setting anything in stone here, but just to kind of get a pulse on the room to see what this group is thinking about. And that will feed into future sessions on how we think about this. So I'm going to click forward. And so for those of you who are still answering the question, it doesn't look even close. So, gotten that answer there. I'm going to click ahead to the next question. We'll take a look at that. So the next one being, where do you feel the pre-kindergarten students should be housed? And in previous sessions, we talked about potentially keeping them at the Quaker Dome where they are now. Or, maybe they should all be kind of moved out of that into a new facility. Or if there's multiple buildings, maybe they should be split up and kind of decentralized across the district. Or we just have, aren't sure about that. So we'd love to kind of get a pulse on the room in terms of what your groups have discovered and individually what all of you have been thinking about.
Is that mean right now that's where they should be housed, or where should they be housed when we build these new schools?
So when this plan manifests or materializes, where should the kids go? So not necessarily tomorrow, but again, if we were
Would that
looking.
be like the new building if we're gonna do an elementary, is that number
Correct.
2?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
thank you.
Yep. Good question. House all the kids in a pre-K students in a new building. So one of the new buildings, if it were 2, then they would be a part of that, not necessarily their own standalone structure. So we're going to click forward. So in a new building, again, as a part of kind of that construction piece or a part of that new building. Okay, the next one. Where do you believe 6th grade should be housed or included? In the past, there was a lot of conversation. Do they go more towards? Okay, there you go. We clicked ahead. I guess we can see it as we go. Whether they should be kind of lumped in with the elementary school kids or pushed up to the middle school, high school.
That's elementary. That's kind of become biased.
It does become biased. Now it's like, come on, we got to push it farther. Exactly. Technical glitch. So we're seeing the numbers kind of hovering similarly to what the initial was. But kind of favoring that 6th grade towards the elementary grades, that K through 5, and then 6 would be included with those. And that's different really for all communities. Some push them up, some keep them with the elementaries. And then I think this is the last one or close to the last one. Do you believe Welty or the New Philadelphia High School should be renovated or replaced with a new building? So again, try to fix up and patch or improve the spaces on the inside, or kind of scrape it away and start with new construction.
I got it, believe me. If I don't read it, don't think. I got it.
Okay, so to get a pulse on where the room is on that. And I'm not sure, that might be the last one. I think this is the last one. If pre-kindergarten is moved out of the Quaker Dome and say into a new building, do you believe the Board of Education could move there and that we repurpose or demolish this building here on Front Street? And that clicked. Okay, so I don't know if we can hide that still. Nope. So I guess it's getting pretty evident at that point. So there we go. So repurposed or demolished in all of its older glory. A neat building, though. Give you just a couple more seconds to log those. All right. Okay, so thank you for that. That information is really helpful as we kind of move forward in the planning process, because those are more conversations that we are going to have in the times ahead. So just a couple quick next steps, and then we'll let you all out of here. But the next meetings are February 6th and the 21st, and that's at 6:30, just like tonight. And so unlike what we've done in the first couple of sessions, we're going to move to really 2 sessions a month instead of 1. So as we're kind of getting more detailed, we don't want there to be as long of kind of time between the sessions, so we can get into some more detailed conversations. So we are going to pick up the pace as far as the number of sessions that happen. So February 6th and the 21st, we're looking ahead in February through April at land acquisition, whether or not we want to include an auditorium, retaining and renovating certain portions of the existing building. And you can kind of read all the things that we're looking at there. Looking to finalize sites, so taking these conversations and really doing more specific studies on it. Updating the OFCC project costs, as was mentioned, and then really finalizing that segment, phase 1, phase 2, or none at all, if it's just that single phase. So a group of this size, it's great to have this much input from the local community, local government, residents, parents, you name it. Having a group of this size to come out and provide input really helps make a more informed decision. So we really appreciate your time. I know the sessions can seem a little long, but these are your buildings. It's the future of your district. So what better time to really provide that input when we're looking to determine that. So we would love to see you February 6th and 21st. And just as a reminder, all of this will be uploaded. So the results from our polling and conversations from tonight will be on the website probably in about a week. So if you have interested neighbors, residents, friends, whomever, feel free to send them over that way. They can catch up on what we're doing here. And if they have input, there are forms for questions if people have that. And then the little cards that you have, there's a couple extras. Feel free to take those, hand them out to folks who are unaware or who you may think would be interested, so they can get up to speed and really come out here and attend with us. So we would encourage you to come back. And Superintendent Wentworth, you have a few final remarks?
Just a couple of things. We did record this session tonight, and we will post a link both on our website and on social media. So if you know people who want to see what took place tonight, the actual recording of tonight's meeting will be posted there, as well as a synopsis will be posted on the website. If you have not signed in, please do so. We want to reach out to you before the next meeting with some reminders and possibly a little bit of homework, so that we're prepared and we can use our time efficiently and effectively. Just thank you again for the great input tonight. Thank you for the additional site possibilities that you gave us to look into. We're going to look into those and have more information for you regarding the possibility of using those sites as well. And I hope you all consider coming back in February, and we'll continue this process. So thanks again. Have a great night.